I wanted to even see if we can talk about film a little bit, because you've watched your fair share of films, and
Oh, sure. Yeah.
you're a guy that wants that visual experience.
I want the
What?
visual experience. I want the, and like you said, the older you get or the more stressed you feel, you want to slip into that hot tub of kind of films that will embrace you. There's nothing to, there's nothing too shocking. It's all the thrills are gentle thrills, all of the camaraderie in the film, or all the humor is not cruel humor, it's a gentle humor. So I find myself as I get older, obviously going into, and you got to watch out with nostalgia because it is a swamp. If you
Mm,
get too deep in it, you'll never get out. But I find myself thinking, I need hugging, and I'll go and watch like the Titfield Thunderbolt. I don't know whether you know that film.
no.
Um, you should find it on online. Wonderful film, very slow, very gentle, very warming. Uh, so I'll find that, or I'll go and look at Hobson's Choice with Charles Lawton. Films that really, all of the triumphs are tiny, all of the terror is tiny. It's just so hugging. These films are like a hug.
I do. I associate the Universal monster films, the black and whites, uh, with being in my grandparents' living room drinking hot cocoa uh, in the afternoon. We'd come home from school and there'd be the afternoon movie, and it would be Bride of Frankenstein.
But I guess they were considered not scary at that point in time.
I in 68, I mean, I would think I think it's very disturbing, actually, Bride of Frankenstein.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
Elsa Lanchester is just unbelievable in it. Um, and so it's that, and it's the look of the thing. It just looks so dank. It looks so, and good. There's really good lab tech in there. They've got their Tesla things going on and off. And I was just always fascinated by that. And then I would get so upset by the ending when she rejects him.
Yeah, because you're invested in.
You're so invested because you felt sorry for him earlier because the blind guy brought him in as a friend
Yeah,
and
yeah,
fed him
yeah, yeah,
and drank
exactly.
with him.
And didn't light his thumb.
You had to go there.
I'm sorry.
But yeah,
Do you ever see films which, because of their age, you'd missed and you've blundered into
oh
later,
yeah, yeah.
being totally knocked out with them? I saw a few years ago, for the first time ever, I saw that early 20s version of The Golem, which, oh man, the scenery and the costumes and the whole German expressionist kind of look of it. It's almost like a cabinet of Dr. Caligari, but with a medieval slant on it. It's fantastic. It just, wow, I want to live in that town.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about. You talk about Metropolis,
Yeah,
same time period.
yeah.
How did they do it?
They found a complete metropolis in Argentina
Yes.
because the metropolis they originally sent out around the world. Okay, here's the film. Um, the version that they kept in Germany then got, oh, it's too long, we should get rid of that. So they edited it down. That became the accepted version, was the edited version. But some strange cinematic outpost in Argentina still had an unchopped about one. So that's become, wow, that's like the source of all Metropolis.
Are you a
Metropolis.
Criterion? Are you a Criterion Collection guy?
I know this, but I don't collect them especially. But remind me, I know the name.
Just they're the outtakes and everything, and the restored versions to the highest level of available transfer now. They're coming out. They've been coming out for years. It's a channel. It's also just Blu-ray, but it has all the making of. It'll have any interviews contemporaneous to it. It'll have everything that exists about it. And so I've seen the restored Metropolis where they cut back in all the parts that were lost.
Right.
And so, yeah, and then they found the completed one. And then I'm fascinated by that film.
Well, in the DVD time, I'll call it that. I used that as an excuse to hunt around the world for things I really wanted to see, because I'd heard a rumor about so and so or such and such, and I'd go and get these films, and I'd hunt everywhere for Karel Zeman films, the Czech filmmaker. I love all his stuff. His Baron Munchausen. His oh God, what are some of the other ones? Invention for Destruction, I think, was one of them. Nakometa, Off on a Comet. He did that. I mean, they're just wonderful, and I'd get them from other sources like Japan or France or Czech or whatever, just so I could have this stuff. Or Jan Svankmajer had a big thing. I had to get everything of Jan Svankmajer's, because I'd seen a little clip of it on TV at some point, and I thought, wow, who's this? Okay, make a note of that. Not only the look of it, but also the sound of it, the music. I'm trying to think of the name of the composer who seemed to do all the Jan Svankmajer films. Can't think of his name. It might be Jiri somebody. No, I'm ashamed now. But I used DVD as a way of finding things that, like, I had to get every Popeye, for every Fleischer Popeye, because I love the Fleischer Popeyes.
I saw one recently in a hotel, and it blew me out. Black and white. You mean the black and whites?
Yeah, they made 3 or 4 color ones, but they were longer. They were about a quarter of an hour each.
No, these were short black and white ones.
Yeah. Did they have 3D sets?
Yeah.
Yeah, they used to build 3-dimensional sets on a turntable.
It blew my mind. I did not know about it.
Yeah, as Popeye's walking along the street or through the cave or wherever he is.
Yeah.
All the perspective is changing, and all the houses are moving by in 3D, because they're 3-dimensional built sets with animation in front of it on a glass screen.
Yeah.
Wow.
It does not surprise me that you find that interesting. I think those rubbing two sticks together to create nuclear fission is what we were looking at when you look at these guys and what they had to work with, and the imagination that's required.
Yeah, yeah.
They
were going to make Fleischerland way before Disney.
I did not.
Yeah, I think he got wind of it and thought, I better hurry up, or they're going to beat me to it.
Well, I'm sure
they had plans to do Fleischerland.
Yeah. Yeah, you want to go in there, don't you? When you see
absolutely. So I used that kind of, like you say, about collecting films as an excuse to, to find unusual things that I'd only heard rumors of, or people would say, "Oh yeah, I saw this Czech film once," or "I saw this German film," or whatever it was, and then I'd hunt it down, and 9 times out of 10, I would not be disappointed.
I was lucky in that my university I attended had film showings, and I took a good film course with a good film teacher. And so we saw Citizen Kane and everything right up front, and understood what was going on.
Yeah, I had an art teacher in Swindon College who would sometimes the lesson would be him showing a film. And one day he had a Burroughs film, William Burroughs, and I can't remember the title of it, but he couldn't get the soundtrack to work. But never mind. He said, look, there's something wrong with the soundtrack, but we're still going to watch it with whatever it sounds like. And because it was like, cut, 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 that sort of thing, the soundtrack was fucked up, but it was just like, it was all different sorts of interference or messed up sound. I loved it. I didn't, I don't know if I've ever seen it since with what the real soundtrack should be, but in my head this film has got this electronic almost musique concrète accidental thing going on.
And the sounds like the cutting, the editing would have been Brian Geisen and him having that cut up thing.
Yeah, well, it was Brian Geisen that got him into cut ups. And I think Brian Geisen said he got it accidentally. He had some newspapers down, and the board he was going to cut up, he laid down this board to cut up for some product, and it had some glue or something on the back of it. And the newspapers he'd put down, he cut this board into strips, and when he lifted the strips up, they had newspaper, dissected newspaper columns on the other side, and he started laying them together in the wrong places, and he'd found this new technique, and explained that to Burroughs, and Burroughs then used it himself, and then he explained that to David Bowie, and on we go,
Right.
So but it was a pure accident of Brian Geisen just trying to cut some strips of card up, and it accidentally sticking to the newspaper to protect the table.
Did you ever set up strategies like that for your lyric writing?
I tried it, but it didn't. It's that time of the year, and I can see the ladybirds coming out. This room gets infested with ladybirds, and I'm not gonna look at you. I won't kill you or put you out, but man, it's this time of year every time. I tried various things, but I found that the process was more enjoyable than the result, if you see what I mean. The ritual of the process was more rewarding than, and here we go, and here's the art at the end of it. I made a book once that was all like dissections of microbes and like medical dissections of nothing in particular, and I'm naming these pieces and explaining what they are, what they do, and great fun to do it, and the ritual of making it and trying not to make anything that would be recognizable and all that sort of thing. But in the end of it, there was nothing I could do with it. I just ended up with a book with, so the act of doing, the ritualistic act of doing it was much more satisfying than any art with a capital F at the end of it. Do you find that? Do you find sometimes the ritual is better than the end product?
Well, you put me in the mind of the time I was performing John Cage's music, and the rules and the procedure was fascinating, but it wasn't fun to listen to.
I can't imagine doing that. I can't imagine, although I like repetition, I find repetition enormously influential. The act of playing written repetition, I can't imagine doing that. I think that would shut me down and I'd just pass out.
Oh no, well, with Cage, it's randomness.
Of course it is. Yeah. Sorry.
So the taking personality out of music concept, which I never really
sorry,
got.
yeah. Sorry, I went off on Philip Glass, Steve Reich, Philip Glass.
Yes. Well, that's another thing altogether, but repetition is interesting if that's what you're doing, variation. But no, the cage thing was, choose dots on a line to represent volume, velocity, duration, all these things. And then you do all those things. And by the time you've done those things, you ask yourself, is this what I would consider interesting to listen to musically?
Right.
There's
So
plenty of,
the ritual of doing it was.
it's very much the verbal instructions. Read the performance instructions, on the score. And then, at the end of the day, I felt that we were improvising. So
Yeah.
now I'm in this whole other Derek Bailey world. I'm in this other,
Squonk.
AMM.
Swang.
Yeah, and I'm thinking, well, then this is improvising. This is just improvising. This is not a score I'm executing or piece of music. And I guess that's somehow in his ethos. But I just also found it strange that when they played a version of 433, the famous nothing.
Yeah.
The audience made sounds, and Mr. Cage was there, and he was very upset. So that was interesting too. Like, oh, you do have some sort of feeling about what a good,
an
what
ego about the precious,
something about it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Didn't Lennon steal that for the Newtopian national anthem or Notopian national anthem? Something like that.
I think at a certain point, everybody read Silence and everybody read the Cage essays. They were very interesting philosophically. Like, what are we doing when we're doing music? What are we doing? Are we doing art? Are we doing entertainment?
Well, it gets into what is music.
What is music? Right.
Just ordered noise, isn't it? And how ordered do you want it to be? We got like JS Bach at one end of the order, and then we've got, the Stooges at the no, they're quite organized. They're somewhere in the middle. The really out there kind of squonk stuff at the other end. It just questions what is music. It's, what is any art? What is poetry? Blah blah blah.
Well, that is still an important question, and I find it's interesting that just to bring up again your sci-fi album that I love so much.
Oh, good man, good. Cheers. That was important for me to do.
It's a killer.
That was a very important record for me to do. And most people don't, what's that? They do, oh yeah, I know Censored Working Overtime, or I know Mayor of Simpleton. What's this? A sci-fi record? They don't know it, and because I loved the art of Richard M. Powers so much as a child. I was a slow reader, and I had trouble reading, and the school kept me back for special catch-up lessons, Oh, he's a bright child, but for some reason he struggles with reading. And they would get you to go to a library on the estate, on the council estate, and you've got to loan 3 books and then tell us about these 3 books by next week, that sort of thing. And I would always go, and because I didn't like reading, I would go to the science fiction section. And I pulled out the ones I liked, the pictures on the cover. And 9 times out of 10, the pictures on the cover, I found out in later life, were either painted by Richard M. Powers or, oddly, Eve Tanguy. Eve Tanguy ended up on a lot of sci-fi book covers, But I would take these books home and I would lay them on my bed, lay there and stare at them and get the music from these Richard M. Powers paintings. And I thought, yeah, I'm not reading the book, but I don't need to know what the story is. I've got the music from the picture on the front. And thank God they never held me to, and what is this story about, Andrew, when you get back to school, because I couldn't tell them. I never opened these books. I didn't read what was in them. That was unimportant to me. What was important was the music that the pictures gave me. And when I got to make an album of my thank you to Richard M. Powers, to this music that his paintings made in my head as a kid, when I got to doing that, it was a shame that his estate wouldn't let me use any of his pictures.
Yeah.
They wanted far too much money, and they said, you can't crop any pictures. You've got to show his name, the signature. You can't use any parts or any edits of any. And that
this is such a fascinating thing, and maybe it's very geeky, but when you deal with estates, as I do in the archival music business that I do, producing archival concerts, when you're dealing with estates, how open or closed they are to the dissemination of the future of this person's work.
Yeah. Well, sadly, the lady that looked after the Richard M. Powers estate put such conditions on me that were, frankly, I couldn't afford, and they were horribly restrictive. So I thought, I'm going to have to fake a piece of Richard M. Powers art, which I did very poorly. It's only got the faintest smell of some of his paintings. But I thought, how can we amplify this smell? So I got it to look like a paperback book, a much used, much opened paperback book, which is... that's part of the sensation for me, because that's where I saw those paintings, on the fronts of paperback books.
Is it still available, Andy?
It is. burningshed.com should have Powers. So it's Powers by Andy Partridge, 12 sound pieces, blah blah, the art of Richard M. Powers. Yeah, you should be able to get it, but don't go buying it if you're expecting to jump around the room and sing a song.
No, I mention it because it's another aspect of Andy Partridge's musical world, and I think it's a fascinating listen and fun. And if you take it as a sonic adventure, and if you're up for that, you'll enjoy it very much.
Yeah, if you want to go and look at what some other planets may or may not have looked like to the brain of a 9-year-old boy, go and get Powers. But I hope it will take you to good places. It was certainly a lot of fun, and the thing for me that was important was not the strict rhythm of the pieces, because there is no strict rhythm, the implied rhythm of the pieces. The sort of oh, ping, pom, boom. You're feeling this ghost of a skeleton behind the sounds. So to some extent there is rhythm in it, but I tried to tell this to somebody and they said, "Oh, I think it's immensely rhythmic." So I thought, yes, it worked,
It is rhythmic, but it is also beautifully colored. The textures and the timbres that you're using. What were some of your sources?
Well, they were mostly, I can't think what it's called. It was just an in-house synthesizer in Logic. And I would use that to build something I had in my head. I need a whoosh. No, that's too musical. Let me, no, let's get rid of the music from that whoosh. More white noise. No, darker. But it's got to have like a big gloop at one end of it. So I'd build the visual of it into a sound. And then the other source of sounds was a sampler in Logic, and I'd mess around with the timbres of things, like stretch them or muck them about in some way so that they became more abstract. I didn't want anyone going, "Ha, well, that's just an oboe," or "That's just,"
You crafted it.
Yeah, I was crafty with it.
Yes, as you are when you do all of these things, you make sounds for images and images for sounds.
But there you go. That what a perfect headstone.
Andy Partridge, he made sound for images and images for sound,
Yeah.
images of sound. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's so much fun to speak to you, Andy. Do you have a little bit of time? I have another one of our little games that we could play. Last time,
I'm just hang on a second. I have to check how much power I've got. Yeah, this should upset a few people.
well,
Be
okay.
gentle with me, camarade, camarade.
No, these are fun ones, and I think will tell us a little something about Andy Partridge and how you view the arts. Last time we did underrated, overrated in a number of different categories, books and film and art and all sorts of things. And we're going to do a little bit different today. It's just going to be this or that. You'll choose between these two things that are somehow related and tell me how you feel. If you have prefer one or not, you can also abstain. Okay.
Hit me with your gritty maracas.
The New York Dolls or the Stooges?
Oh, you bastard. Oh,
Oh boy.
probably the New York Dolls because I could envisage being a doll. And damn it, for about a year or so, I tried to be. I would dress like it, think like it, try and write songs like it. No hope in Ice Cube in hell's chance of ever being a New York doll, and it would have totally destroyed my music career anyway. But I could never envisage getting to the high heavens or the low depths of hell that the Stooges could take you to. But I could imagine being a doll, so that gives me the umbilical to some extent.
Thank you. That's great. How about Duchamp or Marinetti?
Marinetti. I just like the fucking punk troublemaker that Marinetti was. He was, yeah, he was punky, and it was way decades ahead. The attitude is decades ahead. It's a bit nasty. It's a bit misogynist, I think,
Yes.
but it's essential. It art needed a kick in the balls, and he was one of the few people that delivered it.
And is Duchamp too bouge for that?
Yeah, he's a bit too kind of playing with it. Let's put a urinal and
Yes, yeah.
by R. Mutt, and by R. Mutt Langer, a great producer of urinals. No, he's a little bit too playing with it, whereas Marinetti is going for the throat of the art world.
That's really true. Okay. H.P. Lovecraft or Edgar Allan Poe?
I'm not that, because I'm not a great reader, and there's the reasons why I've not been a great reader in the past. I don't have enough experience of either of those. I think I've read The Raven and H.P. Lovecraft. I don't know if I've read any H.P. Lovecraft. Maybe I have. In my late teens, I had a mad reading binge. I think it was getting away from school because I was away from school, I wanted to read because I didn't have to. If I was told to read something, no, I don't want to know. Wear this, I don't want to know. Say this, I don't want to know. Go away, you know. Now you don't have to read anything. You're free of school system. Great.
Right.
I want to read everything. I want to see everything. But I never got round to much in the way of H.P. Lovecraft, and I think only the Raven.
Well, Lovecraft is horrifying. So he had interdimensional beings, and he had all sorts of.
Can you remind me of some titles, because maybe I've read some of
the Dunwich Horror.
Ooh.
I think, and at least you might have seen films made from his stories. But
Dunwich Horror, that rings a bell with me.
And
maybe
I think it might even be a British film. I'm trying to.
It is.
But yeah, so let's keep moving.
Yeah, that one's a little bit of a hole in my learning.
Okay, The Godfather or Goodfellas.
Never got into gangster films in any way.
At all.
I just don't like films glorifying bad people. Which is, you know, people say, "You fucking pansy, what's wrong with you? These are guys' films." I just never really enjoyed the glorification of assholes.
Fair enough. How about Psycho or The Birds?
Oh, The Birds, definitely.
Uh-huh.
The Birds still resonates with me now. If I see a flock of birds, I see a load of birds on some wires, or a load of birds on a fence or something, and I turn into Tippi Hedren. Can't you see? No, I just that was her in that, right? That's Tippi.
Yeah.
Because oh boy, did he put the hits on her, Hitchcock. Yeah. No, it rings much more for me because, you know, I know everyone knows the scene in Psycho, you know, but for me, it's a lot creepier. The mess that these innocent little feathery animals can do. I found that more frightening in a more primordial way.
Cool. Doctor Strange or Adam Strange?
Oh, Adam Strange, 100%. Doctor Strange was good because Ditko. Adam Strange was good because Infantino, and just a ray hitting you and you going instantly to another planet where you are, for all intents and purposes, a superhero with a reverse Greco-Roman crest on your helmet.
Pretty great.
The jetpack, and a gorgeous gal assistant there who was also, she was kind of the love interest as well.
Mm-hmm.
What was her name? Was it Alana?
Alana, yeah.
Alana, see, I remembered that. Yeah, no, Adam Strange was great. Anything that Infantino did, because of his long panels, either long this way or long that way, or the way he perceived future cities and futurescapes, I just loved. And his aliens, almost everything he had aliens seemed to have gills. I just loved Infantino's art.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, you know, the whole gill thing. What was it? Everything looked like a kind of fish thing.
That is true. He was going there a lot.
He was a bit obsessed with fish and gorillas.
That's right. Those are two real strong tropes there. Yeah. Okay. Superman or Spider-Man?
Again, this is tough because Spider-Man, because Ditko. But Superman, probably because it was more of a world. It had a bigger, it got me earlier, it got me first,
Sure.
which is kind of important. It's probably my first love was getting a Superman 80-page giant comic going on a trip somewhere. And, that should keep him quiet in the back of the car, not knowing that if I'm trying to read while we're in the car, I'm going to be puking everywhere. But an 80-page Superman giant, and just loving Curt Swan's precise artwork in there. Curt Swan was very precise and almost photographic at times. But I liked the Superman world, the fact that it went to other planets, other dimensions, other zones. There were all the schlubby people, the kind of inconsequential people, the people at the bottom of the sea. It was a huge world where Spider-Man didn't really have that.
It was urban.
It was urban, but it was it was too specific for me at that time. I liked the giant worlds of Superman. If Spider-Man had had a fortress of solitude or a little bottle he could go into and be like a Batman character in it, and I loved all the Bottle City of Candor. Oh, I wanted one of those.
Yeah.
So it had to be. I wasn't so crazy about Wayne Boring's artwork. But Curt Swan's I really liked.
Yeah, Curt Swan is memorable.
Yeah.
Okay. Eric Dolphy or Pharoah Sanders?
Yeah, you bugger. Pharoah Sanders, introduced to me by my friend Spud Taylor, Michael Taylor. And he'd either come up to, I was living with my parents at the time and he with his, and he'd send away to America for import records. And he'd be, come on, get that rubbish off. And it'd be like the Small Faces or the Monkees or whatever, And he'd get this on, and it'd be some Pharoah Sanders. And wow, Spud, this is really out there, So I think Pharoah Sanders, because he was one of Spud Taylor's ways in for me to get into those dimensions of unusual, unmusic music.
Did that include Albert Ayler?
Yeah, Albert Ayler was it was like thrilling scribbling, whereas people like, some people had, Pharoah Sanders had this sort of like history mist. He seemed to be more in touch with an ancient history or something, and he'd had these clouds of mist. But other players had more of a modern scribbling approach, and Albert Ayler was definitely one of those. Albert Ayler was a marker pen on a clean white wall, and he'd just be scribbling, which was thrilling, but it was a different vibe. So I would have to say Pharoah Sanders for being eased in by these weird historical mists.
Great answer. Emergency or Turn It Over?
Emergency, 100%. Because when Lifetime took on Jack Bruce, that was adding an ingredient to the soup that it was a very, very distinctive ingredient. And they put this ingredient, which is, I don't know, they had this thrilling modern chicken soup going on, like no other chicken soup you'd ever heard before. And then they put this really equally strong ingredient, which is like, I don't know, some sort of super strong strawberry jelly in there with it, and it's like, no, it's not. You've taken this great strawberry jelly and you've put it into this great chicken soup, and it's not working, fellas. It to me, it killed the, and these two words aren't going to go together, but I have to put them together, the delicate, violent balance that was Tony Williams' lifetime. They had the balance right with Larry Young, Tony Williams, and John McLaughlin, and it was violent, but it had a delicacy to it that you can't mess with the atomic balance of it all. And they went and put in this super strange ingredient from the rock world and from the British session world. I mean, to some extent, McLaughlin was from that world as well, but it tipped up the scales for me. It never worked. I love Jack Bruce's playing and his albums. I had all these Harmony Row,
Songs for a Tailor.
What's the one about? It's got the dogs on the front. Something about We Can Eat, or do you know the one I mean?
Yes, I don't know.
You know the one I mean.
I know the cover.
He's got a big plate of like sausage and mash, and it's outdoors, and he's got these dogs around him. Mm-hmm. I had all those records, and I loved Jack Bruce's playing in Cream as well, and his singing, very fiery singing.
Fiery, soaring.
Yeah. But it was too heavy a weight and too distinctive a flavor to put into this already perfect, thrilling mix.
That's fair enough. There's Satanic Majesty or Beggar's Banquet.
Well, you know me. One of my favorite all-time albums in the top 5 is Satanic Majesty's Request. It hit me at the right time. It hit me where I wanted to hear unusual sounds in music. It hit me when I wanted my pop groups to be opening up and expanding a little. This was pre-emergency, which was probably pre people like Coltrane and Albert Ayler and all that, the real out there sort of stuff. But it was my pop world being prized gently open with a very colorful spoon. And the Rolling Stones were clumsy, cloddy with psychedelia, but bless them, it was perfect in its rotten way. Just absolutely marvelous. Every track on, especially Citadel, Jagger's lyrics to Citadel sound huge, describing this, people driving around in a future world of steel and glass, and me loving the I'm going to get really strange with you here. I almost physically love old plans of ancient fortifications, especially all the ones that look like that from the air, with the kind of things I mean. How would you call them?
Forts,
but a certain type of fortress. Late 1600s, everything scientifically worked out to deflect cannon shots and give you covering field of fire. But to see these diagrams above, these beautiful star-like, almost crystal patterns of forts, sorry, I forgot what I was talking about now. I've got so off into forts and crystal patterns. No, I've totally lost my track. No, it's gone. It's gone. It'll come back. About 3 a.m. it'll come back.
Okay.
But Satanic Majesty's Request, Yes, just singing. I've got it. He was singing about a citadel, and that is one of the citadel is the last retreat of any fortification where you go to when
Oh, the
like all is
Citadel,
lost.
right.
You go to the citadel, and the idea of this future world with these crystalline fortifications, and
Mm-hmm.
I just think Jagger's lyrics can be so good. Another really good one is where he taps into William Burroughs is Memo for Turner, which is almost, the lyrics to that are almost like a paragraph from a Burroughs book. Really, really excellent. So Jagger's lyrics can be phenomenally good. They can also be stupidly crass and annoying, but when he's good, he's good. So Satanic Majesties, definitely. And when they started to go brown again for Beggar's Banquet, it was all going brown. It's like, you know, the band were brown. Everyone had dropped the bright clothing and the sort of expansive ideas, and let's go brown. Let's take our shoes off and have our filthy old patchwork jeans in the California mud. And I don't know, it lost, for me, it lost a lot of wonder. And I
I'm
could
with
see
you.
I could see the Stones losing wonder beginning. It's a very good album, Beggar's Banquet, but it's starting to lose the wonder.
Fair enough. Well, let's speak also of beginnings for a second here. White music or go-to?
White music, because that had been boiling away in my head for years. Whereas Go-To is one of those, it's that difficult second album. You do your first album, record company says, great, we just got the tapes for the new album, loving it, lads, it's great. When are you recording the next one? We don't have any songs. Well, we got you penciled in for, 6 months' time, you'll be recording the next one, and there's tours set up before then. So wait a minute, I don't have any songs, or we don't have any songs. We're on tour, we don't have any time to write any songs, and then we're in the studio. So it became a thing of panic. I don't think the material on Go-To is quite so strong. And then blend that in with Barry Andrews suddenly coming up with, 7 songs? And he I want a piece of the action. And it was like, wow, Colin, have you heard Barry's songs? What do you think of it? It's going to take the band in 2 different directions. Yeah, we're just getting up and running, and the film is just starting, and we know the next scene and how it can go after that. And he wants to take it off in totally a different direction. And it was a time of great rupture between myself and Barry. I mean, we were so bitchy to each other in the studio. It got to the point where he wanted to do all his keyboard overdubs, or all his non-basic get the track down keyboards. He didn't want anyone else in the studio, as in the other 3 of the band, because he didn't want anyone saying, Barry, can you try something more? He wanted to do it his way. And so it's, for me, the Go-To record it's got a better sleeve, but it's Barry Andrews peeling off from the formation. He doesn't want to fly in that formation. He doesn't want to go to the place we're flying to. And fair enough, he's a human being with his way of doing things, but it was difficult to live through.
Understood. Okay. Here's a different one then. Mummer or English Settlement?
This is tricky. Probably English Settlement, purely for the Stalinist quantity has a quality all its own. um, God, the American label did not want to do a double album.
No, they didn't.
They didn't want the Iron Age horse on the front either. They really wanted to. They knew that we wanted this Iron Age horse, and they sent a mocked up cover over, and it looked like fucking My Little Pony. It was a painting of a horse, you know, a kind of Disney-esque horse jumping over the green Wiltshire hills, and it was puke worthy. It was not this primitive signpost of our tribe is here. You know, it didn't have that. I think it's Iron Age. My history is a bit sketchy on that stuff. But no, they did not want a double album, so they trimmed it to be a single for the States, single album. But that album was made for me at a time where I decided in my head, I'm not going to tour because we're not growing. We're not expanding and growing fast enough and confident enough. I want to take the band in a broader way. I want to use other colors. Let's use acoustic instruments. Why not? Colin got himself a fretless. Again, not the first time he played fretless. In the early Helium Kids days, he had a Dan Electro fretless bass. And after a few gigs, he begged me to paint fret markers on it, which I did. So I taped it up with painter's tape, and I painted white fret markers where he was on the bass, so he knew where he was. Of course, they only lasted a short while because it was rubbed off, you know. But so he did have a Dan Electro fretless in the early days of the Helium Kids.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
that's.
But yeah, so we were, you know, I gave away my acoustic guitar on a TV show and got another one, a better quality one. Dave had bought a 12-string guitar. That was his new color. We'd bought a Prophet 5, Prophet V synthesizer. That was a new color. Colin had his Wall fretless bass. That was a new color. So we were all determined to expand the palette, and I knew in my head I don't want to tour this album, and I said to everyone, I got them all individually. I didn't want to be ganged up on, but I got them all individually and said, look, I really don't want to tour this album, you know. I really don't want to tour anymore. It's too much. It's driving me crazy. I'm doing too much, and I want to work in the studio more. And they all had a very similar take on it. It was all, you'll get over it. You're just going through a bad patch. You'll be great. You wait, you get out on that stage, you'll see that audience, the lights, the volume, it'll be great. Just like it, you know. And I said, no, I don't want to do it. And they all had that kind of take. Oh, what's wrong with your Patsy? It'll be great once we get out there, you know. And I thought, no, I don't want to tour. And I went out reluctantly on tour, and things came very unwound. Well, you know the whole story, that things came very unwound for me. I was trying to be a vegetarian and not doing it properly. So I was fainting all over the place and getting dizzy spells. I stopped long-term Valium addiction halfway through a US tour, so things came instantly unwound from then on in a big way. Plus I wanted the music to grow. I wanted to spend more time in the studio. I didn't like not being paid for any shows. We never saw a penny for 5 years of live gigs, sold out tours, sold out shows, big audiences, getting bigger and bigger, you know, starting with 100 people, then 500 people, then thousands, and then 30,000, or, you know, and we never saw a penny. And you begin to think about this. You think, hang on a minute, what are the tickets for this show? We're sold out. That's oh, I got to join in the chorus, you know, and you just don't get time to think about it. And so that was another train, a gravy train for somebody I wanted off of that. So it all came to a giant head after after the English Settlement album. And of course, record label and management have zero sympathy. Oh, so where's the next album? I haven't got it, you know. Well, you've got plenty of time to write it because you've said you're not touring. So I sat in, put a mortgage down, got a house, sat in the garden on some furniture that somebody gave us. It was all like rattan furniture that was all broken with all the nails sticking out. You really had to go careful where you sat on everything. So I had an acoustic guitar, a different acoustic guitar, a nicer one. So I wanted to write outside. So a lot of Mummer came from being outside, and still that desire to expand the palette. Let's get strings in. Let's get some horns going. Let's get, you know, it was all the colors that are going to be a giant pain in the ass to take on the road. And I didn't want to go on the road because I was doing too much hard work and we weren't seeing a cent. So I was just thinking studio, expand the palette. So
and you did, yeah.
I would have to say English Settlement, but it's a close one. Mummer does have some interesting pointers to where we're going to go. Like Funk Papa Roll to me is the opening track of Big Express. If you see what I mean, sonically.
I do. And of course, who wants to stay in one place? Who wants to stay?
This is what record companies want. Can you write some more songs like Senses Working Overtime? Can you do some more songs? Well, Colin got it as well, you know. Can you have making plans for another name? Can you put another name in there? You know, you get all that. They just want, if there's a smell of success, our A&R man at the time, when we delivered the material from Mummer, he rang me up and said, you haven't got a single. There's no single on this record. Can you write some singles and let's have a look at who's successful. There's that band ZZ Top. Can you write something that's like ZZ Top? Well, of course I can, but I don't want to because they're doing it. You know, can you write something like the Police? Well, I could, but they're doing it. You know, they wanted impressions of current success by other people.
Is there no one?
They actually asked, can you write like ZZ Top, some songs like ZZ Top?
I 100% believe you. My question is, you're sticking around for a few more records. So is there no one in your corner in the company that's just saying, let these guys do their thing?
No, it was they really didn't know what to do with us. We weren't selling massive amounts. We were selling, but not massive amounts. And then we got the ultimatum in 85, 86, you know, before working with Todd, you've got to sell in America, which is the biggest market. So therefore, to do that, you will need an American producer. And so that's why we ended up going down the Todd route, because Virgin said, if you don't sell in America, you're off the label, which at the time scared us because we thought, oh, we won't get another record deal. Now, I think that would have been fantastic to have been off the label. We could have maybe had the pick of going somewhere much more sympathetic. But it was we never had anyone in our corner. Our management we wanted shot of our management. They were just greedy and incompetent and not on our wavelength in the slightest. And Virgin didn't know what to do with us. They were really, I don't know what to do with them. Do we let them carry on or do we interfere? Well, we could interfere a bit, you know. So it was a case of, well, don't let them do videos because they'll just do weird shit. So we didn't do our videos. You know, get them to write straighter material. Get them to, you know, there was a big dollop of interference.
And we spoke about this in the past too, which is just the idea, the very notion, and a kind of ethos of XTC was to be subversive.
Yeah, I like the fact that a lot of people didn't get what we did, and that's fine as long as we weren't starving. And it would have been nice to have. I'm not the sort of person that ever wanted a yacht or a private airplane or anything like that, but it I think giant success would not have suited us, because as we got more successful, I didn't like the pressure of the expectations to straighten up. You've got to straighten up. You've got to be more like, You've got to be more, you've got to wear this suit. You've got to be like that group. You've got to, there was this thing of forcing it. And the more successful you kind of naturally got, the more they tried to ride that and squeeze you into molds which were farther away from your recipe, your flavors.
It could certainly be said that when we hit the 80s, it's much more of a culture of imitation. It's much less of a culture of individuality. It's much more of a culture of conform.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I remember that.
It was a straighter time. Things got straighter. And even the supposed rebellious forms of music were straighter. Heavy metal became very corporate. It's very, it's the sort of thing you'd have, the sort of music that would be put down in front of young executives all at some conference or something, and they get to play being rebellious or whatever. It was all... It all became very straight and very, the product of control by corporations. And that is a music killer, I think.
Agreed. Corporate kills creativity. But at the same time, you guys deliver on Oranges and Lemons. You and Colin both have hit.
But we wanted to make a pretty straight, shiny album. We wanted to make a citrus album. We wanted to make a blocky, not imitating other people, but we wanted to take our thing and say, oh, you want modern? We can do modern. It was like, here, eat this,
Mm-hmm.
And there's kind of enough strangeness in there to still turn a lot of people off. Oranges and Lemons, most people didn't eat. I thought that was a very straight album, and still enough people are going, oh, that's too weird for me. Well, what
Scarecrow People has dissonance in it. Let's put it that way.
It does. Well,
and we know why, because look at the story. So, the musical word painting, all of this is going on. Yeah. No, it's come on. And for that matter, non-such too. Just the writing and the care that goes into all the parts. And this is why we love XTC in the studio. And I understand touring is very, 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 very difficult.
Yes, it takes it out of you mentally and physically.
People don't realize that the gig is traveling, and then 10% of it is the gig.
Yeah. In fact, the gig itself was the only enjoyable bit of the day. Especially the bits I liked where we had little islands in the gig where when we hit that chord there, you've got X amount of bars, who knows how many, where you can kind of, within certain limits, you can kind of do what you want until the arranged signal to come back to normality, Those were my favorite little islands, because you could, I'm going to try this idea out, see if that works tonight. it didn't work last night, so I'll take that in another direction tonight. I
Yeah.
like that.
And if it only could have be made easier, but it's just they put you through everything just to be able to play for an hour or two. And then you're supposed to just turn it on out of nowhere and just suddenly enjoy yourself so everyone can enjoy themselves. Well, it's a little more difficult because they don't know, that you got into a car accident on the way over to the gig or
Or your equipment got smashed up and you had to do the gig with borrowed gear, or your power fails not once but twice on stage, or which totally throws the rhythm of the show out, and there's a million and one things. But
do you remember opening for the Cars at Madison Square Garden?
yeah, because my amp blew,
Uh,
and I thought, shit, I don't have enough confidence in our pickup roadie. He was a lovely Brazilian fellow, but I think really he fibbed about being a guitar tech / roadie. My amp went off and I looked around and he's just stood there going,
uh,
and I'm thinking, okay, this is not going to get solved. So I cut the show dead there. So, okay, bye folks, and everyone's saying, what's wrong? What's, I think he got it going again, but I didn't feel confident after that. I felt like, oh, this could drop out and he doesn't know why. And those were the days where you didn't have identical spares. You didn't have a wall of AC30s like Brian May. You just had your one amp.
mm-hmm.
If that went, bye, we're now a trio.
Right.
So yeah, I remember that show mostly for that reason. And then the rest of the band saying, why did you come off? Why did we finish early? And it's like, look, my amp went and I don't have confidence about getting it going properly again, So yeah, so I can remember it for that reason.
Yeah, I hear that. I once went on stage at a gig in a hockey arena place, and my in-ear monitors had just nothing but static.
Oh, right.
And it's not my band, so I'm saying, please don't start. Please don't start. Oh, what's
Yeah,
going on? I'm like, I have no monitors because we were
yeah,
not, we were in ear. Like, I've
yeah,
no monitors. If you play, I won't even know where you are.
yeah. See, now with tinnitus, I couldn't play live. It's too
Yeah.
loud sounds, especially higher pitched ones, would kill me. I'd just shrivel up like some sort of exotic worm.
So what do you work on these days, Andy?
Well, I've been working with Stu Rowe and Jen Olive with the Three Clubmen, which came out,
Yeah.
which are improvised songs, if you see what I mean.
Mm.
And I've been working with Stu a few more days lately, doing some newer material and re-editing and re-recording some of the older things we had lying around. So I've been working with that. I've been working on lyrics for Stephen Wilson.
Oh.
And I've had a few more offers to write with some other people, which I'm stroking my chin about, which one do I accept, or neither, or whatever. So there's lots of little bits and pieces, but nothing I can say, and here it is, and it comes out next month or anything like that. So stuff in the pipeline.
But you're still hearing things. You're still creating.
Yeah, I guess so, in a small way. Yeah, it's I don't want to be a Beatle anymore. I think I'd just be happy being Pete Best with his little cell, you know.
Well, it's just always a pleasure to talk to you, Andy Partridge.
Thank you, Greg. That was very enjoyable. I'm starving hungry, and my power is going to go any second now.
Look at that. I sensed it. But every moment with you is a moment of pleasure, and thank you for taking the time. It's really means a lot.
It was a pleasure.
And everybody what can you say, Andy Partridge? We got, I don't know, 3 hours on that one.
Yeah. Wait. Okay, it'll be hardback, the one you buy, and it'll be lovely.
And it's available at
burningshed.com.
not
From
a.
And if you want to see it the size it was originally painted, just hold it a long way away.
Okay. Yes, and please look for Burning Shed. There's a lot of good Andy Partridge material on there. I've been your host, Gregg Bendian, and I've had the pleasure of speaking with Andy Partridge, one of my favorite artists of all time. And please hit us up on Patreon, like and subscribe, and we will keep giving you this kind of stuff where you can't really get it anywhere else. Why would you? You can hear us, you can watch us, you can find us on all the platforms for podcasts. Thank you, Andy.
Okay, thanks, Greg. See you soon, man.